11.2 Introduction. Childhood and adolescence are the most crucial and sensitive stages in the human lifespan. They are considered as preparatory stages for the adulthood, involving many types of developmental changes. A child is born with biological predispositions that serve as a template on which some changes are made in the physical, cognitive, emotional and social aspects. Adolescence is considered as a bridge between childhood and adulthood, which is marked by swift changes in physical, cognitive and emotional aspects. It is generally said that an adolescent is on a roller coaster ride due to the pace of these changes. This is the reason why adolescence is labeled as the most vulnerable stage in an individual's life. In this unit you will learn about various behavioral and developmental problems / disorders in children and adolescents. Further, you will learn about the management of these issues with the help of various counseling techniques commonly used in clinical settings. Finally, you will specifically understand a common maladaptive behavior of adolescents such as substance use and will learn their management. 11.3 Developmental changes during adolescence. Childhood and adolescence are considered as important predictors of a healthy adulthood. Adolescence is characterized by several types of changes in their physical, psychological as well as social functioning. This phase is considered as the zone of transition within which the child gets on the journey to becoming an adult. According to the World Health Organization, adolescence covers age range of 10 to 19 years, whereas 10 to 24 years age group is described as young people, which includes the youth age group of 15 to 24 years. Although children and adolescents pass through specific developmental changes and characteristics, there is diversity also in this age group, influenced by various socio-cultural background and contexts. Hence, this young population is dynamic in nature, and counseling for this age group needs to take this into account. Counselor also needs to be aware of various developmental changes in adolescence. The stage of adolescence is marked by rapid changes in cognitive, emotional, psychosocial and physical domain. Physical changes include bodily growth like height, mass, and secondary sexual characteristics like changes in voice pitch. Cognitive changes are related to the mental processes such as reasoning, abstraction, visuospatial orientation, and problem-solving ability. Emotional changes include exhibiting more anger, hostility, fear, and anxiety, and lacking in emotional competence. Psychosocial changes are marked by changes with regard to independence, social relationships, autonomy, identity formation and future orientations. Physical development in adolescence. During adolescence, a spurt in physical growth occurs due to hormonal changes. The most prominent role is played by the pituitary gland in this process. It is known as the master gland, and it controls the secretions of other glands in the body. It produces growth hormone, which is an essential part of overall physical growth of adolescents. Several bodily changes like growth of pubic hair, breast development, changes in the pitch of the voice, etc. occur at this time. Cognitive development in adolescence. Adolescents are in the stage of formal operational thinking according to the theory of cognitive development by Piaget. Cognitive development in adolescence is marked by development of reasoning skills and abstract thinking. Reasoning is an ability to use the prior knowledge to find solutions to a problem or drawing conclusions. It is a higher cognitive function which is associated with problem-solving skills. Adolescents with these skills tend to look for various alternative solutions to a problem while exploring a range of possibilities. These skills are based on logical thought processes. Abstract thinking is the higher level of thinking which helps in understanding complex concepts readily and helps in problem solving. Adolescence stage is also characterized by the development of metacognition ability. In this stage, adolescents develop a capacity to think about their emotional states, their feelings, and start making interpretations about the perceptions of social elements about themselves. In simple terms, it can be described as thinking about one's thinking. C. Emotional development. Emotions are the psychophysical states of an organism which are associated with thought processes, feelings, behavioral patterns, and sense of pleasure, anger, sorrow, etc. As you know, a healthy person is known to possess an ability to manage his/her emotions with respect to time, place, and person. This ability is known as emotional competence. However, the foundations for the development of emotional competence are laid during the period of adolescence. During this stage, adolescents learn about their feelings and emotional states more deeply and try to label them as per the standards represented to them by their family members and other social elements in their respective societies. D. Psychosocial development in adolescence. Psychosocial development in adolescence occurs in several areas. Autonomy. During this age, adolescents start defining their ways of living life and adopting certain behaviors which might be antecedents for their future development. They demand their privacy and independence to make certain decisions like being with their friends, making choices about food they consume, decisions related to their outfits, etc. They start behaving like adults in late adolescence and demand for autonomy. Identity formation. In simple terms, identity stands for the perceptions created about oneself. This is related to an image in one's mind about himself/herself influenced by his/her background, skills, experiences, achievements, goals, etc. It can also be related to one's ethnicity and a part of cultural heritage. The stage of adolescence is marked by the exploration of personal roles which adolescents are about to play into their adulthood. Future orientations. This area focuses on the future careers and vocational choices. These are much essential for opting a particular role as per the personality characteristics based on their self-identity formed during identity formation. It starts during later stages of adolescence, i.e. around 16 to 18 years. Cognitive maturity is attained with the achievement of the autonomy which was previously perceived to be semi-autonomous in nature. At this age, adolescents are ready to start their journey as adults and thus may have increased access to available substances like alcohol, tobacco, and other drugs. Points to remember. Childhood can be explained as a stage between the infancy and adolescence. Adolescence is considered as a bridge between childhood and adulthood. An adolescent is on a roller coaster ride due to the pace of changes in physical, cognitive, emotional, and psychosocial aspects. Adolescence begins from the age of 10 years and may last up to 19 years. Physical changes in adolescence include bodily growth like height, mass, and secondary sexual characters like voice pitch. Cognitive changes include changes in mental functioning like reasoning, abstraction, visuospatial orientation, and problem solving. Emotional changes include emotional competence, anger, hostility, fear, and anxiety. Psychosocial changes include independence, social relationships, autonomy, identity formation, and future orientations. 11.4 Behavioral and emotional disorders. Behavioral and emotional disorders are characterized by affected behavior and emotional states of the child or adolescents. They may include conduct disorders, autism, eating disorders, phobias, anxiety, and depression. Brief description of these disorders is given in the table below. Table 11.1 Types of behavioral disorders. Behavioral disorders major symptoms. Attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, ADHD. This is characterized by inattention, impulsivity, hyperactivity and an inability to sit for required period of time. Children with ADHD have difficulty concentrating on the task at hand, and they may disrupt classroom functioning. However, it is not to be confused with overactive children who are more lively and it gets difficult for parents to control. It needs to be diagnosed properly. Eating disorders. Eating patterns of adolescents gets influenced by peer, media and social cultural pressure. Eating disorders include anorexia nervosa, where they have an irrational fear of gaining weight, so they starve themselves to remain thin, and bulimia nervosa, where they go on binge eating and then purge themselves out because of guilt feeling. Conduct disorder. It is characterized by repetitive and persistent cruelty towards people or animals, dishonesty, aggressiveness, destructiveness, a lack of remorse and callousness. It goes beyond the normal mischiefs of childhood. Obsessive-compulsive disorder, OCD. This disorder is characterized with repetitive and intrusive thoughts and compulsive behaviors, for example, frequent thoughts of dirt/germs and compulsive washing of hands. Separation anxiety disorder. It is associated with the development of extreme fear and nervousness or anxiety due to the perceived separation from parents. Specific phobias. These are intense irrational fears of some objects, places, activities, and/or situations etc. that are persistent and obtrusive in nature. Social phobias. In social phobias, a child/adolescent avoids social situations as they cause intense anxiety. For example, fear of speaking and interacting within the class as others may make fun of him/her. Depression. Depression is a mood disorder which is characterized by persistent low mood or sadness, lower levels of energy and loss in interests in pleasurable activities. For example, child may stop participating in sports activities. 11.5 Developmental disorders. Developmental disorders generally occur at beginning of the childhood. These are related to delayed or retarded physical, cognitive, social or emotional development of the child. They may hamper activities of daily living and normal functioning of the child. Some commonly known developmental disorders are intellectual disability, learning disorders, cerebral palsy and Down syndrome, etc. There is a strong association between the developmental disorders and genetic predispositions. Some of the important developmental disorders / disabilities are mentioned below in Table 10.2, Table 11.2, Types of developmental disorders. Developmental disorders major symptoms. Cerebral palsy. It is a non-progressive disorder marked mainly by developmental delays and motor dysfunctions. There are exaggerated forward/poor reflexes, rigidity in limbs, and inability to maintain posture and coordination. Autism spectrum disorder, ASD. This is an umbrella term which may include various types of disorders, such as autistic disorder, pervasive developmental disorder, Asperger's syndrome, characterized by difficulties in carrying out effective social communication, stereotype forward/repetitive behaviors and lack of emotions. For example, the child may not reciprocate to love and affection given by the parents. Down syndrome. Down syndrome is characterized by trisomy of 21st chromosome. Symptoms include Mongolian face, rough or thick skin, mild to moderate intellectual disability, inclination towards music and dance, friendly behavior. Intellectual disability. Intellectual disability is characterized by IQ less than 70 and delay forward/deficiency in adaptive functioning. There is delayed developmental milestones, inability to learn, education beyond class 8 is not possible, dependence on others for daily chores. Intellectual disability can be categorized into mild, moderate, severe and profound. Learning disability. Learning disability refers to varieties of learning problems like difficulty in reading, dyslexia, writing, dysgraphia, and calculation, dyscalculia. Intelligence may not be affected but processing of the information is affected, hence, they commit silly mistakes. 11.6 Substance use. Substance use is a major concern and issue among children and adolescents. Alcohol, beer, rum, whiskey, and tobacco, cigarette, bidi, caney, Cuba, Tulsi etc., are widely consumed substances. Tobacco is considered as a gateway drug responsible for opening the gate for other potentially harmful drugs like alcohol, inhalants, cannabis, opioids, benzodiazepines, amphetamines, etc. Most of the adolescents initiate their drug use with tobacco use. Various factors impact the early starting of substance use such as peer pressure, media influence, social class, economic status, poverty, neighborhood etc. Let us first understand some basic terms related to substance use that are used in clinical settings. Substance use, in general terms, this is an occasional /recreational use of the substance which may not be associated to any immediate medical or psychological disorder, substance-induced disorders. This is generally carried out in social situations, under the influence of peers or just for the sake of enjoyment. Substance abuse /harmful use. This can be understood in terms of the intoxication of higher amounts /concentrations of the substance. This is associated with risky substance use behaviors like drunken driving. Substance dependence, it refers to an intense craving for the substance in its absence. It is marked by tolerance, withdrawal, compulsiveness for substance intoxication, and affected activities of daily life. Substance dependence is developed when almost daily use of the substance is started and tolerance is developed. When the substance is not available, then the person may have withdrawal symptoms like headache, shivering, body ache and insomnia. The day-to-day functioning is affected due to regular use of substance use. Risky behaviors associated with substance use. People consuming substances like alcohol generally indulge themselves in some risky behaviors like rash driving, getting indulged into brawls, theft, having unprotected sex etc. The exact reason is not known about why some children and adolescents are more likely to develop dependency over psychoactive substances like alcohol, tobacco, cannabis etc. However, the biopsychosocial model explains that people with biological predispositions are more likely to intoxicate themselves with certain substances. Though very few studies have reported this predisposed inclination of humans towards substance use, there are certain psychosocial factors, like hostile environment, child abuse, personality traits, peer influence etc., which are considered as strong predictors. Social and psychological factors are major contributors to the substance use in human beings. Children born in families with a history of substance use are also more likely to start using substances. Moreover, peer groups act as the major influencing factor in the determination of the substance use patterns. However, some of adolescents quit substance use on their own without any kind of intervention or counseling after a certain time period. The need for intervention is felt when dependence is developed in those who are not able to quit on their own and have maladaptive or risky behavioral patterns. Substance use is associated with several kinds of comorbidities. Comorbidity refers to the presence of a physical or mental illness along with substance use disorders, SUDs. Many a times, comorbidities are the predictive factors for substance use. Conduct disorders and depression are commonly associated with SUDs. As per ICD-10, diagnosis of substance use disorder, SUD, must include at least 3 of the following listed criteria within 12 months period: a strong desire or sense of compulsion to take the substance, difficulties in controlling substance taking behavior in terms of its onset, termination, or levels of use, a physiological withdrawal state when substance use has ceased or been reduced, as evidenced by the characteristic withdrawal syndrome for the substance, or use of the same, or a closely related substance with the intention of relieving or avoiding withdrawal symptoms, evidence of tolerance, such that increased doses of the psychoactive substance are required in order to achieve effects originally produced by lower doses, progressive neglect of alternative pleasures or interests because of psychoactive substance use, increased amount of time necessary to obtain or take the substance or to recover from its effects, persisting with substance use despite clear evidence of overtly harmful consequences, such as harm to the liver through excessive drinking, depressive mood states consequent to heavy substance use, or substance-related impairment of cognitive functioning. Efforts should be made to determine that the user was actually, or could be expected to be, aware of the nature and extent of the harm. 11.6.1 Impacts of substance use on adolescents. The intoxication of any kind of addictive substances for longer periods is dangerous for the health of any individual. However, their most negative impact is seen among adolescents. The impact of substance use is linked to the age of initiation, frequency and overall time period of consumption from the age of onset. Lower the age of initiation, higher the insult to the brain, and associated components of the body. Therefore, chronic use is positively correlated with the presence of psychological comorbidity in substance users. Substance use can impact adolescents in the following areas: affect cognitive functions leading to poor scholastic performance, affect physical growth and its associated negative impacts on physical as well as psychosocial aspects of development, interference with neurotransmitters, damage to vital organs like lungs, liver, kidney etc., breathing problems in the case of inhalants and heat-burn tobacco, cigarettes, bidis and marijuana, negative consequences on digestive and reproductive systems, social risks like unplanned pregnancies, sexually transmitted diseases, brawls, criminal records, economic dysfunction, damage to close relations etc. Points to remember: common behavioral disorders, ADHD, eating disorders, conduct disorders, OCD, separation anxiety disorder, specific phobias, social phobias, and depression. Common developmental disorders, cerebral palsy, ASD, Down syndrome, intellectual disability, and learning disability. Risky and pleasure-seeking behaviors are responsible for getting indulged into experimenting substance use and adopting some maladaptive practices like lying, truancy, disobeying, etc. Affected emotional states result in increased impulsivity, irritability, aggression, destructive behavior and substance use. Substance use: it is an occasional /recreational use of the substance which may not be associated to any immediate medical or psychological disorder, substance-induced disorders. Substance abuse /harmful use: this can be understood in terms of the intoxication of higher amounts /concentrations of the substance. Substance dependence: it refers to an intense craving for the substance in its absence. It is marked by tolerance, withdrawal, compulsiveness for substance intoxication, and affected activities of daily life. People consuming substances like alcohol generally indulge themselves into some risky behaviors like rash driving, getting indulged into brawls, theft, having unprotected sex etc. Children born in families with a history of substance use are more likely to start using substances. Peer groups act as the major influencing factor in the determination of the substance use patterns. Alcohol, beer, rum, whiskey, and tobacco, cigarette, bidi, caney, Cuba, Tulsi etc., are widely consumed substances. Tobacco is considered as a gateway drug for other potentially harmful drugs like alcohol, inhalants, cannabis, opioids, benzodiazepines, amphetamines, etc. Total 14.6% school-going adolescents below the age group of 15 were found using tobacco. Core symptoms used to diagnose substance dependence as per ICD-10 criteria: strong desire or compulsion to consume despite knowing its harmful use, evidence of tolerance accompanied by withdrawal symptoms, and consequent failed efforts to cut down the amount. Comorbidity refers to the presence of a physical or mental illness along with SUDS. Substance use is associated with several kinds of comorbidities like conduct disorders, anxiety and depression. 11.7 Counseling children and adolescents. As you have already studied in Unit 1, counseling is a psychological process where one trained person establishes a professional relationship with the client to help him/her through purposeful conversation. Counseling intends to decrease the emotional conflicts and overall distress levels in the client through problem-solving and coping skills besides several other techniques. Counseling children and adolescents in behavioral disorders targets maladaptive behaviors in children and adolescents. The counselor helps to develop an understanding about maladaptive behaviors in children and adolescents, their impact on themselves and their close ones. On the other hand, counseling in developmental disorders is helpful in focusing on performance-based issues, determine strengths and weaknesses of a child/adolescent and adopt appropriate coping strategies for building up basic skills to perform daily tasks. Certain considerations that need to be kept in mind while providing counseling to children and adolescents are: mostly it is a referral case in case of children and adolescents when they come for counseling. They are referred either by parents or teachers or the school administration. Hence there may be issues of compliance with the counseling process. They may come for the counseling sessions, but they may not comply and cooperate with the counseling process. They may not also have awareness or understanding about the process of counseling, why it is required and their role in it. Vulnerability of children put them at risk. Counselor needs to ensure that counseling does not make them more vulnerable by asking the child to do something or the parents to do something which changes the equations at family and with elders. Hence parents and family need to be taken into counseling also. Children may not have the fully developed language capacity. Hence counseling needs to use nonverbal techniques such as play therapy, art therapy, bibliotherapy etc. Let us now see a few counseling techniques and therapies that can be used for children and adolescents. Family counseling. Family counseling targets the dysfunctional roles of family members within a family system. Both child and family members are included in the family counseling. Children may adopt certain maladaptive behaviors due to underlying problems in the familial system. In family counseling, these problems are resolved by helping parents and family members to develop an understanding about these problems and adopt better coping strategies. Family counseling helps in managing behavioral problems like conduct disorders and OCD etc. Applied behavior analysis. ABA counseling. In ABA helps children and adolescents in managing their emotional aspects, activities of daily living, behavioral outcomes in certain social settings like classroom. This may include communication skills, self-help skills, adaptive learning skills, hygiene training, and dining manners, time management etc. Counseling in applied behavior analysis helps in managing intellectual disabilities and autism. Play therapy. Play therapy uses play as a communication. Children are not able to express their needs, emotions, thoughts and perceptions in precise words due to their limited vocabulary and abstract reasoning. Play acts as a medium of communication for developing an empathetic relationship between counselor and child. Play therapies helps in managing anxiety, autism, trauma, depression, etc. Play also serves as an important technique of counseling because it helps in catharsis by enabling children to express their feelings, anxieties and fear. It also enhances their interpersonal relationship and problem-solving skills. Creative arts therapies. Various forms of creative arts therapies may be helpful in developmental disorders like Down syndrome and ASDs. Children and adolescents are involved in activities like music, dance, coloring, painting, pottering, etc. for managing their outsocial behaviors and activate their senses like touch, sight, etc. This also helps in improving their cognitive abilities. Mindfulness practices. Mindfulness stands for an ability of being aware of their senses, feelings and their presence in a certain situation. Mindfulness practices help adolescents to understand their emotions and senses and help in resolving issues related to their psychophysical aspects like body image. Mindfulness practices help in managing depression and anxiety in children and adolescents. 11.8 Counseling in substance use disorders. Counseling for substance use disorders, SUDS, tries to first find out how motivated are the clients to change. Majority of interventions for substance use disorder are based on the stages of motivation for changing clients' behavior. The Trans-Theoretical Model or the Stages of Change model by James Prochaska and Carlo Di Clement indicate the client's readiness to change. There are mainly 5 stages in this model. Pre-contemplation. At this stage adolescents are usually unaware of potential harms /risks and / problems associated with the substance. This is the reason that they do not want to quit their substance use. However, they may be receptive to the information provided in developing a better understanding about substance use. This sort of understanding helps either in reduction of the intensity or frequency of the substance use or quit it completely. For example, the adolescent client might say, "I use weed, cannabis, hardly once in a week. It is just the weed. And what harm would it cause it to me? It is not tobacco that can cause cancer." This clearly shows pre-contemplation stage of change. However, the client is receptive and open for further information related to the harms of cannabis or substances. Contemplation. At this stage client has started noticing problems associated with their substance use pattern and start thinking about quitting but not immediately. For this purpose, he/she may be thinking and weighing the pros and cons of the substance use. Determination/preparation. This is the stage of planning to quit the substance in which plan is formulated for the next action phase. Counselor helps the client in formulating realistic and practical goals for quitting the substance use. Action. This phase includes actions taken in order to quit the substance. In this phase, the counselor plays the role of mediator and helps in mediating the process of quitting and providing motivation. Maintenance or relapse. In this stage, counselor helps the client to maintain the targeted behavior. In case client remains abstinent, then the therapy/counseling is terminated. However, maintaining sobriety is not as easy as it seems. Due to cravings or some other factors, the client may fall back to the prior state and start consuming substance again, which is known as relapse. The primary role of the counselor in this stage is to prevent the possibility of relapse by keeping contact with the client and giving supportive sessions when needed. 11.8.1 Prevention and treatment. Any treatment starts with the screening for substance use with assessment tools like alcohol, smoking and substance involvement screening test, ASSIST. Some preventive measures have also been developed for curbing the substance use at community levels. Some of them are providing education about healthy lifestyles, managing peer pressure, learning to say no and harms associated with substance use, psychoeducation about the substance use for school-going children, teleshows for sensitizing and imparting knowledge in mass public about various biopsychosocial issues due to substance use. These preventive strategies can be applied on the familial, schools and community levels with the help of various governmental as well as non-governmental agencies. Apart from preventive measures, various treatment modalities like motivation enhancement therapy or motivational interviewing, relapse prevention counseling, family counseling, and behavioral counseling, contingency management, have been developed for the treatment of SUDS in children and adolescents. The Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, SAMHSA, launched a comprehensive program including screening/assessment, brief intervention, and referral to treatment, SBIRT, which has been served as a stepping stone in the treatment of SUDS in clinical settings. 11.9 Commonly used approaches to treat substance use disorders. 1. Psychoeducation. Psychoeducation is an evidence-based psychotherapeutic intervention which includes educating the client or associated people about psychological disorders and factors responsible for them. It may also be used as a preventive measure for preventing the substance use in adolescents. It intends to provide an insight about the associated illness. This helps the client to manage his emotional states and learn coping skills to change his maladaptive behaviors and attitudes towards the condition. It starts with providing general information about the substances, difference between use, habit, and dependence, illness, symptoms of illness, various causes, treatment or the management, prognosis and chances of relapse. This helps in normalizing the impact of illness on client and his closed ones. Psychoeducation can be imparted in various settings like individual settings, family settings, group settings, community settings. Individual setting occurs in one-to-one sessions when the client is not comfortable in discussing his problems in the presence of others. In group settings, counselor generally makes a group of 5 to 8 clients while focusing on their similar needs. In the session, clients share their experiences, difficulties and several other issues related to substance use with other members of the group. It helps in providing them a supportive environment and overcoming shame and guilt. Psychoeducation in family settings aims towards providing an awareness about functioning of family members, their mental health states, interpersonal relations, and coping skills. In community setting, psychoeducation intends to impart knowledge to a larger population, either homogeneous or non-homogeneous, simultaneously by making use of mass media as a tool. It aims at schools, colleges, religious groups, and local community to provide psychosocial support. 2. Motivational interviewing, ME. Rolnick and Miller devised a client-centered technique called motivational interviewing to enhance the motivation of their clients, in the stage of pre-contemplation/contemplation, for adopting a goal-directed behavior change. It is a non-directive psychotherapeutic approach in which the counselor helps the client to resolve ambivalence, if any, in choosing and adopting a better path for changing his /her problematic behavior. He also makes sure that the client remains motivated throughout the counseling process. Thus the counselor uses motivational enhancement therapies, METs. Thus METs are based on me approach and practices. The main goal here is to enhance the motivation for change. These are very useful for counseling adolescents as they are generally less motivated to change and are referred by adults to the counselor. For conducting sessions of me, therapist must develop certain skills like asking open-ended questions, reflective listening, and providing affirmative responses. It also provides the client a sense of respect and self-efficacy, along with which builds a trustworthy professional relationship between client and counselor. Me is efficient while dealing with alcohol use disorder or problematic alcohol use. However, it can also be used in the cessation of other substances like tobacco or cannabis. There are 5 key components / techniques in me. Express empathy. Empathy is an ability of an individual to understand condition of another person from his / her frame of reference. This can be developed by gaining enough knowledge about the illness and adopting counseling skills like reflective listening. This provides a sense of genuineness and helps in establishing empathetic relationships between the counselor and the client. Decisional balance. Therapist helps the client in weighing the cost and benefit of continuing the substance and quitting it. There might be some benefits like relaxing effects, a feeling of high etc. perceived by the clients. However, many clients are unable to recognize the cost: poor health, poor marks in exams, being abused etc. they are paying for continuing the substance. Develop discrepancy. It basically stands for the development of a discrepancy between the quality of life before initiating substance use and after becoming dependent on it. Counselor intends to put the negative aspects and consequences of substance use on current life. For example, poor scholastic performance due to substance use. It helps in providing a better resolution to the problem. Rolling with resistance. Some clients may not be willing to change their current problematic behaviors and show a resistance. The best way to tackle the resistance of the client is to roll with it. During such situations, argument must be avoided because this may hamper the rapport formation process and may lead to dropout by the client from counseling sessions. Support self-efficacy. In most of the clients, there is a lack of self-efficacy, probably because of multiple failures while changing their maladapted behaviors. The counselor must highlight the strengths of the client on every establishment. These will help the clients to improve their sense of self-worth and gain confidence about changing their maladapted behaviors. 3. Relapse prevention therapy, RPT. Relapse prevention therapy, RPT, is another evidence-based tertiary intervention which is intended to reduce the relapse rate after the cessation or reduction of the problematic substance use. Here we can differentiate between lapse and relapse. Lapse occurs when, after remaining abstinent, drug-free, the client takes substance, for example taking alcohol in a party, and then again remains abstinent. Whereas relapse occurs when a client falls back to a previous way or pattern of substance use after the abstinence. It is a kind of setback for the client and poses challenges in attaining the desired goal, i.e., quitting substance use. One main reason for the relapse may be lack of healthy coping skills. Clients in high-risk situations may become vulnerable to use of substances in the absence of healthy coping skills, leading to lapse. This lapse may induce guilt and feeling of failure, which may lead to relapse. Since SUDs are considered as chronic relapsing conditions, hence, relapse occurs many times before becoming substance-free. For instance, a student of class 11th remained abstinent for 6 months from cigarette smoking. While going to school, he came across one of his old friends with whom he used to smoke. His friend offered him a cigarette, high-risk situation. Since the student learned many healthy coping skills, refusal skills, during the treatment, therefore, he refused assertively and went to his school. Now suppose the student has not learned healthy coping skills, then he might have felt vulnerable during the situation. He might have given some excuses for not smoking. But at the end, he might have succumbed to the pressure and ultimately accept the smoke lapse. 4. Family counseling. Family counseling is one of the most sought-after modality in case of adolescents with behavioral problems or problematic substance use. Many a times, problem occurs due to family issues, for example poor parenting, communication gaps, etc. To address these issues, family therapy includes both children and adolescents and their parents/guardians in the counseling sessions. Family counseling intends to incorporate changes in behavioral and emotional problems of children and adolescents, better improvement at the academic front and better functioning of the family. Dysfunctional families hurt the most and may cause damage to the teen in an irreparable sense. The main aim of the counseling is to resolve the dissonance and other issues within the family and thereby improving the psychosocial functioning of the family. Therapist intends to reduce the defensiveness of the teen and parents/guardians and help them in perceiving their behaviors in a different sense. This helps family members to connect with each other more efficiently. Family counseling is conducted in 5 phases. Engagement. In this phase, the therapist builds a working alliance and tries to connect with family members. An unconditional support is provided to the family to stimulate some hope for the betterment and continuing the counseling. Family assessment. In this phase, counselor tries to assess weak and strong points about behavioral patterns of family members. Creation of motivation to change. Motivation for changing old behavioral patterns can be done by using some positive statements. For instance, quitting alcohol is not easy and most people during this journey fall back to their prior habits, but I appreciate that you have decided to seek help for quitting it. This shows that you are really determined to quit it, to develop some hope in both parents and the client. Conductance of primary interventions. In this phase, counseling techniques are used to intervene and break the negative cycles of problematic behaviors of the client. The behavior modification is the main objective of these interventions. For example, multidimensional family therapy, MDFT, can be used. Termination. It is the last phase of the family therapy which includes briefing about the whole process. Questions are asked about any observed changes in behavioral patterns of the client. It must be noted that the chain of communication shouldn't be broken down at any cost and the participants must be told that whenever they need, they can contact the counselor for holding further sessions as per their need. Multidimensional family therapy, MDFT. MDFT is a family-centered multidimensional approach used for treating psychological ailments in adolescents like substance use disorders, conduct disorders, emotional incompetences, hostility, anger, depression and anxiety along with familial problems. It considers substance use disorder as a deviation from the healthy and adaptive functioning of an individual due to an impairment in the familial functioning. The likelihood of deviation from the normal path or substance use depends on 4 dimensions: I, substance user, child or adolescent; 2, parents; 3, familial interactions / communication; 4, extrafamilial relations. An improved functioning in these domains result in a decreased risk for substance use and less problematic behaviors of the child or adolescent. Assumptions of MDFT. Problems of adolescence are multidimensional in nature, like physical growth, finding a purpose of life, identity formation, state of autonomy, need of belonging, formation of emotional and sexual relationships, etc. Motivation is malleable and can be altered. Motivation refers to biopsychosocial drive for fulfilling the needs and or desires of a human being. It can be intrinsic and extrinsic in nature and can be altered by the help of external events or stimulus. Better and healthy familial functioning reduces depression, anxiety and distress levels and produces long-lasting changes in the adolescents. Anticipated outcomes of MDFT. 1. Increased family stability. MDFT helps in resolving latent issues within the family and thereby strengthens parent-child relationships. 2. Mitigation of substance use / abuse. By using various techniques like drug testing, adolescent-focused sessions, parental counseling, etc., MDFT intends to decrease the likelihood of substance use in adolescents. 3. Increased school performance. Betterment of the school performance in adolescents by imparting them healthy skills like time management and pro-social behaviors. 4. Reduced psychological symptoms. Reduction of the symptoms like covert anger, stress, anxiety, etc. by learning to see things from different perspectives. Working phases. MDFT works in 3 sequential phases. These are as follows. Phase 1, forming a therapeutic alliance. This phase includes preparation of the family and adolescent for the process of intervention, projecting the process of intervention as a collaborative process, defining goals of intervention, and instilling hope and motivation in adolescent and family members. Phase 2, making changes. This phase includes behavioral modifications like decision-making, teaching pro-social behaviors, development of the better social networks, getting more focused towards school activities, and changing attitudes and beliefs. Substance use in both adolescent and family members. Phase 3, termination of the treatment. In this phase, behavioral, emotional and cognitive changes are maintained and the counselor moves towards termination of the intervention process. The number of sessions depends upon the counselor, however, standard form may include 25 sessions over 6 months in the case of non-opioid dependence in adolescents. 5. Behavioral therapies, contingency management. Behavior therapies are based on learning theories in which desirable behaviors are reinforced and unwanted behaviors are targeted for their elimination. The basic goal of behavioral therapy is to help clients to adopt new healthy behaviors and reduce old problematic ones. Various behavioral therapies are cue exposure therapy. In this therapy, clients are exposed to external stimuli related to substance use such as cigarette packet, empty bottle, advertisements, banners, wine shops, etc. The motive behind such exposure is to weaken the link between conditioned stimulus and conditioned response. In this therapy, clients are taught some coping skills which are required for controlling their substance use. Aversion therapy. In this type of therapy, undesirable behavior such as substance use is paired with aversive stimulus. For example, the administration of disulfiram, a medicine, along with alcohol causes severe headaches, nausea, vomiting and anxiety. This medicine is prescribed by the doctor with the consent of the client. In past times, electric shocks were also used in combination to the alcohol consumption. However, due to ethical reasons it is discontinued and no longer used for the treatment of substance use disorders. Contingency management. This therapy is derived from the principles of operant conditioning. According to the principles of behaviorism, substance use is considered as an operant behavior which is reinforced by some reinforcers like effects of substance and social or cultural approval. Contingency management aims to weaken the effects of such reinforcement. It also aims towards providing the positive reinforcement to healthy behaviors. For example, spending time on hobbies like reading, painting, etc., for replacing the maladaptive ones like substance use. Mainly two types of contingencies are used in this therapy: reinforcements, for increasing the likelihood of a behavior, and punishments, for decreasing the likelihood of a behavior, which can be further divided into: 1. Positive reinforcement. It involves using of a desired consequence, providing better services, monetary rewards, etc., contingent upon the anticipated /desired behavior, increased attendance in school, pro-social behavior, reduction in the substance use, etc. 2. Negative reinforcement. It involves the removal of an aversive stimulus, for instance, lifting the ban on sport, contingent upon the anticipated /desired behavior. 3. Positive punishment. It involves using a form of punishment, grounding, suspension from the school, scolding, etc., contingent upon undesirable behaviors, substance use. 4. Negative punishment. It includes removing a positive condition or circumstance, reduction in pocket money, reducing levels of warmth, love and affection, etc., contingent upon undesired behavior, substance use. In case of problematic substance use, these therapies are the first choice of the counselor. However, they are also effective in treating the problematic behaviors of adolescents along with SUDS. 6. Lifestyle modifications: yoga, meditation, sports, and exercise. To remain healthy and maintain healthy lifestyle, it is necessary to incorporate some changes in the daily routine. Adolescents must be engaged in some healthy activities like outdoor sports, yoga, breathing exercises, meditation, etc. Any form of physical exercise is associated with better psychosocial functioning, which has one of the strongest predeterminants of mental as well as physical health of an individual. Lifestyle modification helps in maintaining abstinence. Thus various techniques such as behavioral, motivational enhancement therapy / interviewing, psychoeducation and family-based counseling techniques are commonly administered for the treatment of behavioral, developmental disorders and substance use disorders in children and adolescents. Points to remember. Counseling is a psychological process where one trained person establishes a professional relationship with the client to help him / her through purposeful conversation. Counseling in developmental disorders is helpful in finding performance-based issues, determine strengths and weaknesses of a child / adolescent and adopt appropriate coping strategies for building up basic skills to perform daily tasks. Various counseling approaches in behavioral and developmental disorders: family counseling, creative arts therapies, applied behavior analysis, mindfulness practices and play therapy. Various counseling approached in substance use disorders: psychoeducation, motivational interviewing, relapse prevention therapy, family counseling, behavioral therapies, contingency management, lifestyle modifications, yoga, meditation, sports, exercise, etc. Psychoeducation is the process of educating the client or associated people with him about certain condition or situation which is responsible for causing any psychological distress in an individual by adopting a didactic approach. It includes individual, group, family, community-based psychoeducation. ME is a non-directive counseling approach which intends to explore the possible direction that a client might adopt for the behavioral change. 5 key components of motivational interviewing: express empathy, decisional balancing, develop discrepancy, rolling with resistance, support self-efficacy. Relapse prevention therapy is used for reducing the relapse rate after the cessation or reduction in the problematic substance use. Family counseling is used for the treatment of behavioral problems or problematic substance use in adolescents. It assumes that family is the primary system in life of an individual. MDFT is a family-centered multidimensional approach used for treating psychological ailments in adolescents like substance use disorders, conduct disorders, emotional incompetences, hostility, anger, depression and anxiety along with familial problems. 5 phases of family therapy are engagement, family assessment, creation of motivation to change, conductance of primary therapy interventions and termination. Types of behavioral therapies: cue exposure therapy, aversion therapy, contingency management. Contingency management is a form of behavioral therapy which is based on operant conditioning. 2 types of contingencies are used in this therapy: reinforcements, for increasing the likelihood of a behavior, and punishments, for decreasing the likelihood of a behavior. Lifestyle modification helps in maintaining abstinence. Any form of physical exercise is associated with better psychosocial functioning, which has one of the strongest predeterminants of mental as well as physical health of an individual. 11.10 Let us sum up. Both childhood and adolescence are considered as the most crucial stages in the life of a human being. These stages are associated with remarkable changes paving the path for adulthood. The combined role of genetics and environmental factors plays a vital role in determining the direction of the growth of the child. This is an age when adolescents tend to experiment and explore the world. They are influenced by their peers and parental and social pressure. All these may lead to behavioral and emotional disorders in the growing children and adolescents. The unit also describes various developmental disorders in children. Substance use has been highlighted as an important mental health-related problems in adolescents. Counseling for children and adolescents is described, specifically for emotional and behavioral disorders, and substance use disorders. Specific techniques for treatment of substance use disorders are highlighted. Some common psychotherapeutic intervention plans for treating substance use disorders are motivational interviewing, relapse prevention therapy, behavioral therapies, contingency management, psychoeducation and family-based therapies.